Real ADHD is me procrastinating until the last second to get this video about ADHD done in the fucking first place. Hey, that's Tayo. This is Color Mind, a place where I talk about things that I've thought about, so maybe you can think about them too. And I have the ADHD, and often I get asked, how did I find out that I have ADHD? What was it like for me growing up with it being undiagnosed, and kind of what was the process of me getting treated for it? So I figure I make a video about it because ADHD YouTube it's not. It's not very much. And it's especially not melanated, so we gonna change that. Early life. So the hardest part about this tab on my future Wikipedia page is that one of the biggest symptoms of having ADHD is terrible fucking memory. So I don't remember a lot of when I was younger. There have been multiple times that my two younger sisters have relayed stories about me with such detail that, you know, they assume we're sharing in an intimate moment, and I have no recollection of it whatsoever, and it continues to shock and leave them aghast. But by mixing my remaining unrepressed memories with secondhand accounts from my family, the signs were probably always there. I used to tell my mom all the time back when I was like 10 years old that like I really think I should go to the doctor for restless leg syndrome, which I feel like is like almost a millennium relic at this point, when commercials for RLS was like all over the fucking news and all over commercials. But it caused me a lot of anxiety at the time because I really felt like it's so weird that my legs sometimes just will not stop shaking, or sometimes I could not stop moving, which is kind of ironic because what I was diagnosed with was inattentive type ADHD. And you know, I think that actually rings pretty true. I used to play with pencils a lot, and I don't mean like pencils like I used to like throw them up at a ceiling or like do cool pen tricks, which I can actually do now. Wait, it's the only one that I can do. That took me a whole fucking semester of working at a call center. I would mostly play with them like action figures. Like in my head just had this like incredibly large and nuanced, complicated world. Like I would have two pencils. These are markers, but shut up. And like I would like make them fight. Like they would like, this would be an earthbender, this would be a waterbender, and they'd be like fighting each other and shit. Actually, this joint actually still kind of fun. But I would constantly just kind of daydream in class, because while the teacher was, doing their job, I would be like on my desk, like just writing stories in my head, like the longest and most wild tournament arcs that you've ever seen this side of fanfic.net. By the time I got to middle school, which weren't my best years, but also I feel like if middle schools were your best years, it's probably because you were making life hell for everybody else. So if you have any good memory of middle school, write this down. You're toxic. I think any person who had a weird phase growing up understands the moment they understood that they were weird. Because it was less about the thing you did and more about the reaction of what your natural inclinations were. Right? Like, I don't know why I was weird in middle school per se, but I understood that it made it rather easy for people to pick on me. So I guess my greatest flaw was being fucking sincere. Not that I'm shady. It happened in the past. I'm richer than all of them now. So it is what it is. But this is also where academically I started to get that infamous tag of being a student with a lot of potential. That if only he could do X, like he would be realizing his potential. As if like I had like a lottery ticket that just wouldn't cash anywhere else. Like I won't say like I suck at tests. I won't say that. Like I'm not the best at them, and I certainly do have to work to do well. I had to work to do as well as I did in school. Like it didn't necessarily like come super duper easy to me, but like I enjoyed that work. I enjoyed the validation of that work enough to do the work. When I would talk to my teachers, we would have like really good conversations, and like I could tell that they were listening to me and being like, wow, you know, like this kid like gets the material and has interesting questions and has interesting thoughts and is engaging with the material, but like he can't proofread. Or like, you know, he just goes off on tangents when he's writing his essays, or he just makes silly mistakes in math. So to them, it was always like, well, he behaves like an A student, but he'll be getting C's on his exam sometimes. So like consistency, I think is the word they were trying to say, but that's what they meant by potential. And I used to. I'm gonna lie. I used to be really insecure and angry about that. That like I felt like, yeah, I hung around a lot of smarter kids, and I felt like we were exactly the same. So why was it coming so easy to them, and yet like doing well on tests or memorizing things just was not coming as easily to me. Speaking of remembering things, I used to lose everything when I was a kid. To be fair, I still lose things now, but you know, we're in the early childhood part of the video, okay? I lost my phone every year from 4th grade to 11th grade, every year without fail. And then I would have to go, and this is back when you could do that, by the way. Yeah, I'd have to go like a month or two like without a phone. You know, sometimes like 3 months until like our plan was up for an upgrade, and then like I could sneak in get in a new phone or a new family plan. My parents would just get so mad, so baffled at the consistency of me losing this very important thing that I enjoyed using, and I couldn't explain to them every time. Like, how did you lose? I'm like, if I knew I fucking lost it, I would just told you, right? I did a similar thing with my glasses. I broke or lost my glasses every year from 4th grade, the first year that I got glasses, to 12th grade when I switched to contacts. I've kept these for 5 years now, so you know, there's always room for growth. I would just put them down somewhere, do something for, I swear, like 5 seconds, and then turn around, and then it wouldn't be there anymore, and then I would have no idea where it went. Not knowing. And this is the funny thing, because there were situations where I would find old glasses like 2 or 3 years after I got new ones, or like multiple new pairs at that point. It's something that I thought about a lot, because that means like in the CCTV of my head, random bits of footage were just getting cut out. To this day, sometimes I just do not remember things that happened 30 seconds ago. Like, more often than I care to admit, and definitely more often than I'd care to actually deal with. But when I sit down and think about my life, or in those moments when I get really, really angry about it, I'm like, well, I've kind of always been this way. So, you know, I think especially in middle school, I started realizing I probably need to start figuring out a framework to live this way, because I don't think it's going away. I don't think puberty is going to make me start remembering things more. And that's when I entered high school. Once I got to 9th grade, I found life to be a little easier, because the structure of my particular high school, I went to like a magnet school, which is like a special school, special public school that you test into, and you can take like a concentration. So I went to this really, really good high school called Carver Center in Maryland, and my concentration was like business. And I don't know, so yeah, I fared way better in high school, because I started realizing like, okay, cool, I need this agenda, I need this folder system, and I was really driven, thinking, you know, knowing that I was gonna have to go to college, into trying to be the best student that I could be, to varying amounts of success. I think the thing that specifically changed about me in high school were that I stumbled across 2 coping mechanisms that were really helpful for me, even if I didn't know what the terminology was before. One, I understood that if I was around smart people, then I would get smart grades. The second thing that I realized was that I can't fall if I just keep moving. Meaning that I just did all the things. National Junior Spanish Honor Society, Student Council, Culture Club, Debate Club for the Villain Origin Story, Future Business Leaders of America, basketball in the winter, tennis in the spring. Loved doing extracurriculars, which I mean came in handy, obviously, for college. But I think it was really because like if I knew if I just always had stuff planned, I would never have to decide what I was going to do. So I never would be stuck with what I now realize would be analysis paralysis, right? I really wanted to avoid that feeling of anxiety of not knowing what to do. So I just packed. I got used to packing my schedule full of stuff. And so I would just be on the go all the time. To put it mildly, I was in my type A era, even though like if you look at my transcript, it really was like more like type B- era. But I was trying, but I still was very much struggling against my brain. I was fighting against my brain all the time. For example, I lost my pencil every day of 11th grade. I'm not joking. This is not an exaggeration. No cap. I had to ask somebody for a pencil every day of 11th grade. So much so that on the last day of AP US History, the entire class got me a box full of pencils and a pencil case. Because by that time, I'd become like a meme at the school. Like I asked I asked every person in my graduating class. And towards the end of that year, I was like having to ask like underclassmen. Because at first I didn't know you were supposed to give back pencils. Like I don't know why I never like really thought about that. But you know, once I realized that was like the polite thing to do, I wanted to give back the pencil. And some like, it'd always be like I borrow a pencil in first period and because I knew I would see them in third period. And somewhere in second period, even though I needed a pencil for second period, that pencil would not exist anymore. And it would be so frustrating because then they would come up, they would roll up on you like, yo, my guy, you got my pencil? And I would not have the pencil. And so it started working. I graduated with my master's in, I want to say, May 2019. I started work in August, and it took me about 2 weeks of working to understand that I had been given my job offer because I was good at school, and that school was nothing like work. So, naturally, I struggled. I ended up struggling a lot, but it really didn't come to a head until about January 2020. I don't know how much of this is going to be just me repeating from my Big Four While Black video, but you know, you can go see that if you want kind of more of my experience working in accounting and especially public accounting. But needless to say, during this time around January 2020, I, for the first time in my life, was struggling with a lot of anxiety attacks, and they were getting more and more frequent. At one time, it was just happening like, you know, once a month, maybe like, you know, once every pay period, every 2 weeks. And by the time we got to busy season, I was working in a client in Bethesda, and I was having anxiety attacks every day, sometimes multiple times a day. I would have one in the car before I got out of the parking garage to go to work, and I had to psych myself up to actually like walk into work like I was a normal person. And then I would always get one right before we would go to lunch. So I would like go to the bathroom and literally lay on the tile floor, hoping that nobody was going to come in for like 5 minutes before I could come back in, and then everybody would be like, oh, okay, great time, we're all going to go out to lunch. And I would usually, you know, in order to kind of like make more inroads and network, I would take lunch with my team. There was like a lunch cafeteria in the lobby of where we were working, but I soon started just going straight to my car just to like disassociate and take a breath for 30 minutes before I had to go back into work, because there were times where I just could not function, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't know why exactly I was feeling this way, because I'd never had kind of gone through this before. And I think it ended up being like the first time in my life where I was kind of asking myself, like, is this what adulthood is? You know, like, I understand adulthood is supposed to be hard. I understand that, like, now I'm going to be left to my own devices and I need to, like, I need to figure shit out by myself. But there was a voice in the back of my head during this entire time, like from when I started working in May all the way up to January, where I was kind of like, is adulthood supposed to be this hard? You know, like, I understand life is hard, but should it be this hard? Should I be so afraid to go to sleep and wake up every night because I couldn't deal with the perceived amount of pressure that I had to do to perform at work every day? And my managers weren't helping me feel better about this. They continued to give me work and continue to, even when I was sick, mind you, sick in 2020. Yeah, check those dates. So there were two breaking points. The first physical breaking point was when I was really, really sick in January 2020. I've never been that sick before in my life. It was 2 months before the world locked down, and probably like, a month or so before we really knew what was going on. So I don't want to be one of those people that is like, oh, I had COVID before, it was cool. Like, I don't want to. I'm not gonna be that kind of asshole. But like, I had never been that sick before in my life. I'm not a person that gets sick really often. But like, fluids were coming out of me that were not their normal color. There were times when I like literally could not feel my legs. And there was an entire week in July when I had an asthma attack every night. It's like, wow, I really can't breathe. Like, I couldn't sleep some nights. I think I didn't sleep for like 48 to 36 hours. And I still went into work because I told my managers like how I was feeling, what was going on. But because it was busy season, because it was the most hectic time of the year, they were like, oh, well, if you could still come in to work, that'd be great. This is terrible. I never thought that a workplace that promised so much equity and so much understanding through their corporate culture would be the same corporation that's like, hey, I know you said you're throwing up and sometimes you can't see and you haven't slept in 2 days, but come on, buddy.
Those reconciliations are gonna tie themselves.
But more importantly, the second breaking point was a physical breaking point. There was this moment. It was a Wednesday, when we were working in the auditor's office at our Bethesda client, and I'm reading a contract, and all of a sudden the words don't make sense anymore. And I don't mean like my vision was blurry. I don't mean like it was too small to read. I mean, I was looking at the same contract for 30 minutes and I could not understand what any of the words meant anymore. And as I continued to become cognizant of the amount of how my brain wasn't translating the words to me, I was getting more and more anxious, and I had a severe anxiety attack at my workplace where I had to like hurry up and get to the nearest bathroom, and I stayed in there for like 30, 45 minutes. Like my boss even called me saying where did you go? Are you okay? And I couldn't tell him like what had happened because I just didn't feel safe giving him that information. But it really, really scared me that I could be looking at a document and then all of a sudden like I could not understand what I was looking at anymore. Like I didn't know, my brain was like, no English today. No English, we're fresh out. And I think at that point, that's when I was like, shit, maybe I need to go to a doctor to find out what might be going on. So I talked to my mom about all this, and I was telling her how I was feeling. And the first thing she says is, and I'm kind of like telling her what's been going on with work and all this kind of stuff, and how, I feel like I might have like some attention issues or like ADHD. And once I say that, her eyes like shoot up. And I don't notice it because I'm still talking, but I notice it. And I'm like, I wonder like why. And then I do this whole spiel. We talk on the phone for like 30 minutes. And, she's like, well, yeah, when you were like 2, the doctor said you might have ADHD, but, we kind of just didn't think anything of it because, a lot was just going on right now, and that sounded like more money. And I'm like,
excuse me, what?
And after that conversation, I was like, yeah, let me go talk to my doctor. I decided it was if this is going to be adulthood, then it's probably time for me to try to understand myself as an adult. So from there, I consulted my doctor. I found this ADHD sort of like self-diagnoses checklist that I'll put over here and link in the description that I found really helpful to start the conversation with my doctor. And I know getting ADHD diagnoses and as well as medication is really hard for a lot of people, so I don't want like my journey to be something that you take as gospel. But I think it was moderately easy. I would just say it was moderate. It was moderate to get it. It wasn't like the most easiest thing to do, but it was not like any of the horror stories that I think I had seen when I was doing my research on getting it. The long and short of it was that I talked to my doctor, I showed her the checklist, and then we just started kind of talking for about like 45 minutes about my life, my work life, and how my anxiety or how some of what I was struggling with was affecting my day-to-day life. And I'm not gonna lie, I did most of the talking, I bet that was something that she noted as a good indicator of that I might not be lying. And at the end of it, she kind of just said like, well, let's just get you on some Vyvanse and see what happens. And, then I got on Vyvanse, and I don't want to spend a lot of the video talking about my actual responses to medication and stuff, but if you guys are interested in that, I would love to make a separate video talking about like my medication journey and like what it's like to actually be on ADHD medication for the first time, as well as like what happens when something doesn't work or when you need to switch and kind of that kind of stuff and kind of that realm of things. I just don't want the video to be too long, so if you do want to see me talk about that, please tell me in the comments below. But at the end of it, I got medicated, and even though I was really afraid that treating my ADHD was going to be, in effect, like erasing a part of me that I felt was the most interesting, and I guess really even more possibly toxic, is that I felt like the part of me that I characterize as the ADHD part of me was like the interesting part of me, right? I was really afraid that if I started medication, I was just going to become normal. And I thought the only reason why people liked me was because I wasn't normal, and I attributed all my abnormality to the fact that like my brain don't think good, which is a complete and utter lie. I try to stress that your personality is not just your ADHD or not just your mental neurodiversity, right? It's a whole encompassing thing, and I don't think anything treated well, regulated by a physician, is going to change what makes you you. Because at the end of the day, I still talk too fucking much. I still talk too fucking fast. I take my medication pretty religiously, and the only thing it has done has improved my life. I get better sleep. I get less cravings. I'm able to just think better, and I'm really glad that I took that leap. So, yeah. If there's anything that I can leave off on, I think that your first spark that maybe you want to talk to your doctor about whether or not you have some sort of neurodiversity, whether it be ADHD or anxiety or depression, because a lot of these are comorbidities, like they happen together. The question you should be asking yourself is, do I feel like, especially as an adult, my adult life is too hard? Am I feeling like every day I'm dreading to continue on in life? Because life shouldn't feel that way. I don't care what anybody says. Life is hard, but it's not that hard. It shouldn't feel that hard. It's something that if you're not trying to make it into a substance that you can enjoy, there's not that much in living it. And that's the thing. Do you want to endure life, or do you want to live it? Thank you for watching, and as always, be kind. This is heavy as shit, actually.